I'm just gonna cry and then I'll come back and talk about the film. And let's talk about the festival. So today, as you know, I went to my first event and I saw White Noise. Some of the cast members and the director came, introduced a little bit of themselves in the movie, very briefly. It was like 5 minutes, and then we watched the movie. It was nice. I'll show you some footage.
Brenda and I mean, for many reasons, we love this festival.
Let's talk about the movie, shall we? Hold up. Alright, so to start this movie, I'm just going to premise by saying that the majority of the time, a big percent of the time, film is highly political. I think everybody knows that it's really hard to separate art from politics, even though we try to maybe pretend that it's not there. Art is always trying to say something, the majority of the time. This is one of those cases when it's overtly out there, when art is trying to be political. This is a film that focuses heavily on drawing a parallel to COVID and the pandemic, and maybe the hysteria that came with it a couple years ago when we were going through it. Draws that parallel with a chemical catastrophe that happened back in the day. The way that we see this happening is through the nuclear structure of a family, where we have dad and mom, and then we have all the siblings, which are 4. Dad, Adam Driver, is a professor at uni. He specializes in Hitler studies, which we'll come back to later, because it draws very interesting parallels with celebrity culture. Then we have Greta Gerwig, which is a mother, which is suffering from some type of disorder which we, the audience, don't know until later. At the beginning, it starts to draw a little bit of a metaphor between crowds and like sheeps, as in like, why do we follow leaders? For example, Hitler. Why do we follow media, celebrity personalities? For example, Elvis, because there's a professor that specializes, was it in media studies, film studies, celebrities, culture? I didn't really understand what he taught as a major, as a class, but he taught a major that specializes in some type of celebrity pop culture, and he taught Elvis. So there's a really amazing scene that was the highlight for me. That was when both of them were drawing parallels between Hitler and between Elvis, especially when it came to their relationship with their mothers. And the biggest takeaway was Adam Driver closing the scene by saying crowds are there following either Elvis or Hitler, because that's what they are, that's what they do. They're crowds. Kind of like giving the understanding that we need someone to follow, whether it's political, whether it's in pop culture. We need that leader figure, and we place it upon a person, regardless sometimes of the moral compass that it comes within, because we're crowds inherently as humans, basically. So with that premise, we kind of like jump into kind of the next chapter, which is when everything starts to happen kind of overnight, kind of like it happened with COVID. That there's this accident is very well put together, well embedded between the scene that I just mentioned, and it becomes kind of like a cloud of nuclear, maybe not nuclear, but dangerous chemicals, and nobody really knows what's going on, but people are hysterical about it, and they don't know what they're doing, but they're doing things, and people want to follow someone that knows what they're doing, but nobody knows what truly is happening. So everything is absolute chaos. They're in the safety of their home, and then they are told to evacuate. So they evacuate because obviously they're so worried about this, if this is going to have dangerous consequences to their health. And the radio, the television, the news keeps updating the possible symptoms if you're going to be in in contact with these chemicals, what could you be feeling? It changes. So they're like, oh, like those symptoms are not updated. These are the symptoms, you know. And then they leave their house because they need to evacuate. When they're evacuating, they're told you should go back to your home. And you know, really it's very chaotic. Everything is so volatile. People obviously have no idea what they're doing, but pretend that they do. So you draw your parallels there. Then there's kind of like a motif of Jesus that slowly swings in and out, which is rare and will make sense later at the end of the movie. Then we proceed to understand that both of these characters, meaning mom and dad, Adam Driver and Greta Gerwig, are extremely fearsome of death, and that leads to her character, doing certain things. Watch the movie if you want to know. And leads them to kind of a roller coaster of emotions that is almost also trying to explore the placebo effect about being suggested into thinking something is about the power of your mind, basically. It plants a seed. It doesn't dive really into that. Then we're introduced to a character that I don't really want to talk about, but it brings back into that little motive that I mentioned about Jesus. That's that character, but he isn't, but he brings him in a way. And basically they end up in a hospital, which is a nun's hospital, and they have a little conversation about faith and how humanity is lost without a belief, and how hell is basically a society that doesn't believe. Maybe they're referring to an atheist society that's a living hell. You can draw your own conclusions with the dialogue in German that we have at the end by the nun. But it leaves it quite open. Did they become religious or faithful in a way and became to have hope and understanding that they don't need to put all of their trust and faith into what people are saying and then follow a leader, follow the crowds, this and that? Maybe. We truly don't know, because then the movie ends, you know? Anyway, that's my takeaway from the movie. I extremely enjoy, as I said, the scene of Adam Driver drawing this comparison with Hitler and Elvis. I enjoy how the film was done in general. I thought that the acting was a very good cast. Directing was amazing. It's a good film. And watch it. I think overall I'll give this film 3.5, a 3.5 out of 5, a 7.5 out of 10. Thank you to everybody that worked on the film. Fantastic job. Particularly for me, Adam Driver was a takeaway. Also, he looks extremely hot with the dad body. Pardon my unprofessionalism, but I'm now just gonna cry myself to bed and hope I get a reply from the Lost and Found and the Black Caps. Please help me. Please help me. Please.